What is ideology? Is it dangerous? Is it in fact so dangerous that it can actually kill people? Ciao everyone, this is Nate on the Stone. Welcome back to my channel. Those are some of the questions that we are going to be talking about today. And if you like videos about culture, political, and religious commentary with a different point of view, then don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to my channel. Mollie Tibbetts, as you probably already know, is the 20-year-old college Iowa student whose body was found 5 weeks after her disappearance, July 18th. Cristhian Behena Rivera, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, an illegal immigrant from Mexico, has been arrested and accused of her murder after he admitted to police that he confronted her and actually chased her. A lot of people have used this tragedy correctly to again say that the southern border between the United States and Mexico needs to be made secure so that tragedies like this no longer happen. But I want to take a different point of view. I want to use this as an opportunity to say that ideologues, people who follow an ideology, at the end of the day, they don't care that Mollie Tibbetts was killed. And they don't care if more people, maybe even you watching this video, are killed. What made me think about this was Senator Elizabeth Warren's take on Mollie Tibbetts' death. After her body was discovered and after Rivera was arrested for her murder, CNN had Elizabeth Warren on to get her perspective on the case. And what she said was very interesting.
I know this is hard, not only for the family, but for the people in her community, the people throughout Iowa. But one of the things we have to remember is we need an immigration system that is effective, that focuses on where real problems are. Separating a mama from a baby does not make this country safer.
Many people rightly said after the interview that Warren was completely missing the point. The point wasn't about children-adult separation at the border. It wasn't about Trump's immigration policy in general. The case was about a 20-year-old American girl who was killed by an illegal alien. It was a death that was completely preventable because Rivera shouldn't have been in the country in the first place. Now, it can be kind of confusing, and some people might be scratching their heads wondering how an illegal alien killing a girl in Iowa can lead to a sitting U.S. senator talking about children being separated from adults at the border and the president's immigration policy. One doesn't seem to lead to another. But it does make sense if we remember that Elizabeth Warren is an ideologue. She is someone who follows an ideology. The word ideology has gone through several changes since it was first created in the 18th century. The French philosophers who coined the words used it to describe their idea that all human knowledge only comes through the five senses. Karl Marx in the 19th century redefined the word to mean quasi-rational propaganda that the bourgeoisie used to maintain the status quo. And today, if you look up the word in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, that will tell you that ideology is a system of ideas and ideals, especially one that forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. But historian and cultural commentator Russell Kirk in the 20th century had a different take on the word. He said that ideology means political fanaticism, the idea that the world can be perfected through politics if only human nature can be changed. And so communism promised the new Soviet man. Nazism promised the German people a new empire, a new Reich, through racial purity. Fascism promised the rejuvenation of the nation, whether it was Mussolini creating a dictatorship in Italy, or whether it was Franco promising the restoration of the Spanish monarchy. Every ideology, in other words, has promised the equivalent of a life hack, something that, if only it's followed, will bring about utopia, here and now on Earth. And wouldn't you know it, none of them have ever worked. And the reason why ideologies have always failed is because of a feature common to all of them: oversimplification. Let's take Marxism as an example. Marxism says that everything in human experience, economics, politics, religion, history, whatever, it can all be boiled down to class conflict. So in the Communist Manifesto, Marx brings up the example of ancient Rome, and he says that the different social classes there, the patricians, the aristocrats, the knights, the plebeians, the commoners, and the slaves, formed a system of graduated subordination, meaning that social classes higher up on the pyramid exploited those below them for their own benefit. The problem is that it's more complicated than that. Let's focus on, very briefly, the patricians and the plebeians, the aristocrats and the commoners. One of the two executive officers, or consuls, was required by law to be a plebeian, a commoner. The plebeians had their own political body, called the Tribune of the Plebeians, which had powers that the aristocratic Senate didn't have, such as the power to declare war. And plebeians were allowed by law to go into the Senate and basically just scream whatever abuses they wanted at the aristocratic senators without any fear of reprisal. And these divisions of power, these social conventions, came about because of people and events over time that Marx either didn't know about or didn't care to investigate. And these actually helped the Roman Republic to work pretty well for roughly 300 years. Take another example, the ideology of democracy, which says that if people vote a certain way on a certain issue, then it's not just legal, it's right. Now, I firmly believe that political power ultimately resides in we the people, a fact that republics and democracies acknowledge. But this doesn't mean that if a majority tomorrow decided to vote to make slavery the law of the land again, or voted to reinstate segregation, that those two things would automatically become right. Those are pretty easy examples, but when it comes to other topics, the ideology wins out. Which is one reason why the New York Times has said that Roe v. Wade can't possibly be overturned because a majority of Americans still support it. Never mind the fact that if abortion actually means the killing of an innocent person, it doesn't matter if 100% of the American population was all for it. It would still be wrong. To go back to Senator Warren, her reaction to Mollie's death is a result of the progressive ideology. Now, for several reasons, which we won't get into right now, but I'm sure we will in a future video, the progressive ideology sees illegal aliens as, for lack of a better term, the good guys. They see them as husbands, wives, young children, young people like us, who want to escape the crime and poverty of their home countries and have their own chance at the American dream. This is one reason why they are often equated with and portrayed as the Holy Family, especially around Christmas time. And if illegal aliens are the good guys, then the people who want the southern border secured, the people who actually secure the southern border, like ICE, are the bad guys. And this is why Warren had to pump the way she did in her interview with CNN, because if she kept the focus on the fact that an illegal alien had killed Mollie Tibbetts, it might have strengthened the position of the bad guys. It might have reinforced the idea that, yeah, the southern border needs to be made secure before more people like Mollie Tibbetts are killed. The same thing can be seen in Europe. Because of the massive influx of migrants from the Middle East coming into Germany, crime has increased, including thousands of women being sexually molested at New Year's Eve. And yet, just this past week, the president of Germany, Frank Steinmeier, said that there really are no Germans. Germany is a nation of immigrants. It's the reason why, because again of the great influx of migrants, people in London are sometimes beheaded in public, in broad daylight. And yet, London Mayor Sadiq Khan has basically told his constituents that this is how it is in modern London. You just have to get used to it. The translation in Germany and in London is that to actually acknowledge the problem and to actually take steps to fix the problem would be a betrayal of the ideology. And the ideology comes before people. This simplicity is what makes ideology so dangerous, not just because it closes down your mind to the facts and it makes you see the world like you want it to be instead of how it actually is, but because it causes real people to die. Mollie Tibbetts wasn't the first young American to be killed by illegal aliens. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has said that the number of Texans killed by illegal immigrants has climbed to 1,200 people. The body of a teenage boy was discovered just this past week on Long Island, a year after he was murdered by MS-13, most of whose 6,000 gang members in the United States are illegal aliens. And the history of ideology shows the same thing. The Nazis killed millions of people to bring about their racially pure empire. Franco's Spain killed 200,000 in the White Terror to restore the Spanish monarchy. Communism on its own has killed millions of people. In fact, from August of 1937 to November of 1938, 700,000 people were killed alone in the Great Terror. All of these people, whether we're talking about a Jew killed in Auschwitz in Nazi Germany, or someone who disappeared in the middle of the night in communist Russia, or someone killed today by an illegal alien. These were all real people, flesh and blood people who had dreams, challenges, who had family and friends, a past, a history, a potential future. All of that was completely washed away. And the people who hold ideologies, the ideologues, at the end of the day, they don't really care about these deaths. Yes, they may say that they love humanity or they love their fellow man, and maybe they do. I don't know. I don't have a magic mirror that I can use to look into their hearts or look into their heads. The problem isn't whether they're sincere or not when they say that they love humanity. The problem is that they only love humanity. They only love the abstract idea. They don't love individuals, people like Mollie Tibbetts. This is what happens when you oversimplify and abstract. People stop becoming flesh and blood individuals with family and pasts and potential futures with lives. Instead, they just become members of groups. They become numbers. They become machines. They become cogs. They become part of some political philosophical equation that was dreamed up by some intellectual somewhere. And if some of these numbers are erased, if some of these machines are broken or destroyed in the process of implementing the ideology, well, that's just part of the price that you pay for bringing about utopia. Remember Alan Moore's graphic novel Watchmen, or Zack Snyder's movie version of that graphic novel? Remember how the character Ozymandias kills 10 million people in order to stop nuclear Armageddon? He sees himself as a hero because he's saved humanity. But what really has happened is that he's become a mass murderer because he decided that those 10 million people he killed weren't as important as humanity. They weren't as important as his ideology, as his vision of utopia. But what say you? Is ideology political fanaticism that doesn't care if people die as long as the promised utopia is put in place? Or is it just a system of ideas, some good, some bad, and if good, one that is genuinely trying to improve the world so that we can all live better lives? As always, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. Well, that's all for right now, gang. Whether you agree with me or not, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell for notifications. I post new videos like this every Tuesday. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you all again here next week on Top of the Stone. Ciao.